Hi students, welcome to the next session of historical aspects of forensic science. So we'll see who are the pioneers of forensic science, who are who made today's forensic science possible. In the middle of 19th century, natural sciences began to develop rapidly, and justice, which for centuries was in search of objective and impartial evidence as against the conventional oral testimony of unwilling, hostile, and unobservant witness, turned to science for assistance. So we already told that eyewitnesses or other alternatives of such kind of physical evidence was not that reliable, and in from the 19th century the people were and like searching for new methods, new technologies for better um, like scientific examinations and for the better investigation purposes. And at that time, I think you all know about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and he was the author of the fictional character Sherlock Holmes. And this character and his books popularized scientific crime detection methods, and this certainly helped to publicize among us the scientists as well as criminal investigators the idea that science could aid in the detection of investigation crime. So, while telling about the history of forensic science, we have to remember the name Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his fictional character Sherlock Holmes. And from this fictional character, like people were well aware of this, the science can help. They started realizing that science can help in the legal purposes, and the most of the pioneering work in the field of forensic science originated from contribution uh, from Europe. So in the last session, I told we were thinking that this was started in China, but actually it started in Europe, and there are many people who can be cited for the specific contribution in building the foundation of forensic science using the methods of natural and related science. And one of the persons we can say, first one we can say is Matthew Orfila, and he is generally recognized as father of modern toxicology. And in the early part of 19th century, he established uh, methods for scientific chemical analysis of poisons, which are even we are using today. And this he was established in Paris. So Matthew Orfila is the father of modern toxicology, and he is a Spanish person. And in 19th century, that is in 1814, he published the first scientific treatise on the detection of poison and their effects on animals. And he established forensic toxicology as a legitimate scientific endeavor. So that because of that only he is known as the father of modern toxicology. So the first person we can say Matthew Orfila. He is the father of modern toxicology. Early in 19th century, he established methods for the detection of poisons. And in 1814, we can say 1814, and he is the Spanish toxicologist. And next one is Alphonse Bertillon, and Alphonse Bertillon is the father of criminal identification system, and he is a Frenchman, and he is the he is the first person to evolve a scientific system of personal identification. Because of that only he is known as the father of criminal identification system. And in 1879 mm, he developed a science of anthropometry. This is very important. He developed the science of anthropometry and a systematic procedure of taking body measurements to facilitate distinguishing one individual from another. So we were using fingerprints and DNA profiling, but the first person who tried to identified, who was telling that every individual is different from another, was Albert Alphonse Bertillon, and in 1879 he developed the science of anthropometry, and he was the first to find its use, this individualization technique in criminal investigation. And in 1881 he began to take standard pictures of all the criminals and file them in the Bureau of Identification in Paris. And he also systematized a technique of portrait parade method of identifying culprits from descriptions provided by victims and witnesses. Like in films you may be seeing, like they used to draw the picture of a victim, oh sorry, the suspected person from the information gathered from the victim or suspected. That drawing is called as portrait parley. So from that we'll get an idea about how the suspect person looked like. So mm this he is the person who is known as the father of criminal identification system, and he developed a method called anthropometry, that is taking body measurements for individualizing a person. And like this was replaced by fingerprinting in early early 19th century and early 1990s. And when the Francis Galton he developed a method for classifying fingerprints. So next is Francis Galton. So he done the first systematic study of fingerprints and developed a methodology of classifying the fingerprints for filing purposes. And he also published a book in 1892. The name of that book was Fingerprints, and it gives a sound statistical proof of uniqueness of personal identification through fingerprints. So Francis Galton, he is a scientist from UK, and he undertook the first systematic study of fingerprints, and he developed a methodology of classifying the fingerprints. And in 1892 he wrote a book on fingerprints, and this gives a statistical proof of the uniqueness of fingerprints for personal identification. And next person is Hans Gross, and he developed the principles of criminal investigation. And Hans Gross is from Austria, and he is a lawyer by profession, and he spent so many years for developing and studying the principles for criminal investigation. And he also published a book in 1893, and its name is Criminal Investigation. And this book emphasized the assistance which science could render to the criminal investigator. And Edmund Lockhart. Edmund Lockhart is a famous person, and you all know about Edmund Lockhart. He propounded the principle of exchange, which forms the basic of forensic examination of physical evidences. And Edmund Lockhart is a Frenchman, and Hans Gross tried to develop the principles of forensic science and the principles for criminal investigations. But Edmund Lockhart demonstrated how the principles put forward by Gross in a how to incorporate it with a within a workable crime laboratory. So he demonstrated all these things. And in 1910 he established a police laboratory in Lyons. In 1910 he established a police laboratory in Lyons, and later he founded the Institute of Criminalistics at the University of Lyons. And this is about Edmund Lockhart. So he propounded the principle of exchange. And next person is Karl Leinster. And Karl Landsteiner, what he did, he discovered blood group. In 1901 he discovered blood group, that, and he told that there are 4 types of blood group, and we can categorize the blood into groups like A, B, AB, and O. And later Dr. Leon Lattis is from Italy, and he devised a relatively simple procedure for determining the blood group of dried blood stain, and immediately adopted this technique for criminal investigation. So from crime scene we will not get fresh blood. So Karl Leinster, even though he grouped the thing, there is like if we are applying that to the crime scene, it may fail, because like from chyme we will get the dried blood stain or blood patterns. From that we have to take swabs and all. So it is very difficult to identify the blood group from these dried blood groups. And when Dr. Leon Lattice discovered a new procedure, devised a new procedure for this, the investigation became easy. And next person is Calvin Goddard. And Calvin Goddard perfected the science of ballistics, and he is a US Army colonel, and he developed a comparison microscope for comparison of prime and test fired bullets to determine whether or not a particular weapon was used in the offense. And uh, next one is Albert Osborne. Albert Osborne developed the fundamental principles of document examination, and which gave acceptance to documents as scientific evidence by the courts. And in 1910, he wrote a classic book titled Question Documents, and this book now also this is used by the document expert as a primary reference. So this is about Albert Osborne. So these are some of the important pioneers of forensic science. Who are they? Matthew Orfila, father of modern toxicology. What he did, he detected the chemical analysis for he found method for detecting of detection of poisons. And Alphonse Bertillon, he developed a science of anthropometry for individualization of people. And Francis Dalton, he did the first systematic study of fingerprints. Then Hans Gross, what he did, he developed principles of criminal investigations, and he also wrote one book called Criminal Investigation. Then Edmund Lockhart, he propounded a principle of exchange, and he established police laboratory in Lyons. Then Karl Larsen, he discovered blood group. And Dr. Leon Lattice, what he did, he devised a procedure for determining the blood group from dried blood stains. Calvin Goddard, he perfected the science of ballistics. And Albert Osborne, what he did, he developed fundamental principles of document examination and wrote a classic book titled Question Documents. So these are about some of the pioneers. We'll see other important historical aspects in the next session. So if you read this, about these persons in more, and write down the notes also. Thank you.